Hello, it's Mike from Dimensional Walking. Today I want to talk about time travel. Okay? So it's been a subject of fascination, inspiring countless books, films, and scientific debate. So, mainstream science widely dismisses the idea of time travelers walking among us. Numerous incidents, both historical and modern, suggest that the possibility may not be entirely out of reach. Okay, I believe there is such a thing as time travel, and comes from some of my own experiences and some research on the Montauk subject, which I'll talk a little bit briefly at the very end. Anyways, the question sort of is, could time travelers be hiding in plain sight? Okay. And are there moments in history that hint to their existence? And I'll give you some examples. Let's explore the evidence, the theories, the intriguing cases that fuel this type of speculation. Okay? So, the science of time travel, and there is a science to it, okay? Before diving into these incidents, let me just give you a little bit of a background here. So it's important to understand that the scientific basis for time travel relates to Einstein's theory of relativity, and that is briefly, yeah, when I say briefly, I'm not a physicist, so I'm just going to give you kind of the quick sentence of it, or a couple sentences, anyways. So time is a fixed construct. I'm sorry, it is not a fixed construct, but rather a dimension that can be influenced by speed and gravity. The faster an object moves, the slower time passes relative to the observer. The phenomenon is called time dilution. So let's say time dilution. Okay. It's been observed by astronauts who spend extensive periods of time in space, returning to Earth slightly younger than their counterparts. And it's quite slightly, but it is apparently something that's measurable. Okay. So physicists has theorized that wormholes, theoretical tunnels connecting different points in space-time, could allow this thing called time travel. However, no concrete evidence of naturally occurring wormholes have been found, and creating an artificial one would require a tremendous amount of energy far beyond the current capacities of Earth or people. Or I was going to say Earthlings, but we'll call them people. Okay. So let's talk about a few historical accounts of something that could very well be considered time travel. So throughout history, there's been some strange occurrence that some believe could be linked to time travelers. Okay. And one example in 1901, it's a, I think it was two people. Yeah, obviously it's Eleanor. Her name is Eleanor Jordan, and the other one is Charlotte Ann Mobley. And they were visiting France. Okay, they were visiting Versailles, France, and they claimed that they had a time slip. Okay, so they were visiting Petite Crayon, which I'm not too sure where that is exactly. I guess it's in Versailles, but I don't know what it is exactly. They reported seeing people, okay, dressed in 18th century clothing, including, now this is two people seeing this, okay, including, they thought they saw Marie Antoinette, okay, that'd be pretty incredible, right? They said the atmosphere felt eerie and the buildings appeared as if they were centuries earlier. Later research confirmed that the details described match historical records, leading to some to believe that they had momentarily stepped back into time. Okay, so next, there was this in 1941. Uh, this particular one was in British Columbia, I think it was Vancouver, if I remember. But anyways, it was a place called the South Fork Bridge. They were reopening the bridge, and what happened was apparently years later, uh, and this was an internet thing, somebody noticed on the picture of this reopening of the bridge, which was probably, Jesus, 30, 40 years prior to somebody looking on the internet and seeing this. They noticed that there was a person um, dressed in modern looking attire, wearing sunglasses and a printed t-shirt, which would be obviously uncommon in the early 1940s. So some speculate that there was a time traveler caught on film. Though skeptics would argue that it's possible that some of the clothing and maybe the sunglasses and the printed T-shirt were possible. I don't think the printed T-shirt was, to be honest with you. But sunglasses, I'm sure they had sunglasses in 1940. But anyways, people looking at it, and looked. Apparently, they analyzed it. The photo was legit. It was not, you know, photoshopped or anything like that. Everything looked legitimate. Okay. So then there was another incident where in 2010, a guy named George Clark analyzed some footage of an old Charlie Chaplin movie, and the movie was called The Circus, and the movie was done in 1928. And in the background, there appears to be a woman holding a small black device close to her ear, and seemingly seemed to be talking into it. So some believe that maybe they had captured, and I think her clothing looked very modern. I think that was also another thing, that she was talking on a mobile phone, which obviously didn't exist in 1928. So maybe, just maybe, they had caught, again, another time traveler coming back. There were some people that did speculate that maybe this was like a hearing aid or something. So who knows? Anyway, so and then there's some kind of, I would say, more modern day claims. It goes, now we're into 1954. So this was in Japan. This is in Tokyo. There's an airport there called, well, I ain't even going to try to pronounce it. But anyways, uh, there was uh, there was this guy that came to get on a plane, and his passport said it was from a place called Kured, Kured, which it's a nation that doesn't even exist. Okay, so he was detained by authorities, but when they checked his hotel the next day, apparently let him go back to his hotel. And I guess they did some checks, and it was really strange because this guy also disappeared. But the passport, my understanding, looked, what research I did, looked really authentic, and it just happened to have on there this strange country that didn't exist. So some believe that it was maybe a traveler from a parallel dimension or a different timeline. So, I'm not 100% sure, but it's kind of an interesting story. So there's there's something called time slips and unexplained phenomena. So there's numerous accounts of people experience time slips, which they momentarily, and this is usually very brief. It could even be just a matter of seconds. Find themselves in this different era, and I give you a couple examples, but I think I can give you a couple more here. So, anyways, in England, Liverpool, England, there were multi witnesses who were reporting stepping into the past, and they were seeing these horse-drawn carriages, old-fashioned storefronts, people dressed in period clothing before suddenly returning to the present. And again, this was very brief, but it's brief enough to actually realize where you were and get a grip on it. And sometimes it's multi-witnesses. That's what's really weird. I mean, if it was one person, maybe you just say, well, maybe the guy's losing it. Maybe he's having some kind of issues or problems or something, and all of a sudden he's in like a daydream. Okay, but these are multi witness sightings, and they're just going along the street, and all of a sudden this brief, strange era uh, moves across their path. Okay. So, anyways, then there's another one, and this is 1990s, and this is a guy named Sergei Krinkalev. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. So, anyways, this is the Russian. Actually, it's a Russian cosmonaut. I guess I should know that one, but I don't. It's again, that's a Russian last name. It's usually a little tough. So he was a Russian cosmonaut, and so he technically traveled 0.02 seconds into his future due to time dilution. Uh, and and anyways, he did that aboard the International Space Station, and this was scientifically proven. So this is the real McCoy stuff. I mean, it's just a fraction of a second, but they were able to actually measure it. So that was, um, I guess, it was really true. They were able to measure, and that's great. It's nice to throw some science in with some really strange stuff. Okay, so what about some theories? Maybe why do we believe maybe that time travels are moving among us? Now, I believe aliens are moving among us, but time travelers, that's another interesting subject. So, anyways, so if time travelers do exist, how might they operate? And here are a few of the theories that I developed. Some of them I developed, and some I took from research. Observers from the future. So they're observers from the future. Some believe that time travelers may be quiet observers, studying history without interfering. They would explain why they rarely leave behind concrete evidence. Okay. And then there's government experiments. Yeah. So conspiracy theorists speculate that secret government projects may have unlocked time travel technology, and it remains classified, such as my favorite one, Montauk Project. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the very end again. But Montauk, remember that Montauk, that's truly time travel. Okay, and then there's of course other ones, parallel universes. Some physicists propose that time travel could involve jumping between parallel timelines rather than moving within a single timeline. Okay, so that would mean that you'd kind of shift over and be on a different timeline in the same stream, but a different timeline. So, anyways, so then there's what we call the accidental time slips. Certain locations may have natural portals, causing people to momentarily experience the past or the future. Okay, where you may be moving along, and I've heard people talk about this. They're going somewheres, and they're either walking in the woods or walking somewheres where people don't walk that often, and suddenly they seem to walk kind of maybe a couple steps, and during that period of walking a couple steps, they've actually slipped into another time. Okay, and I've actually talked to people that have done that. It, they can't usually go back. Interesting enough, it almost seems like the portal moves. They can't actually go back and duplicate it. Okay, even if they walk over the same place. So my guess is that this thing will move maybe to the left, maybe to the right, but it probably is still there, somewhere's close by. So, anyways, those are time slips. So, um, in conclusion, while mainstream science was or has yet to confirm the existence of time travelers, the numerous strange incidents throughout history and modern times continue to fuel this speculation. Okay. Meanwhile, there some cases are misinterpretations, coincidences, or general, and there's really no general evidence. But the possibility of time travel remains one of the most captivating mysteries of our world. Okay, now I'll talk about Montauk briefly. Okay, so I've been involved with Montauk. Okay, the project. Not so much that I actually was there, although sometimes I'm very suspicious that maybe I have been part of the Montauk project. Um, but briefly, and I've written about this before. I've done other videos. You want to go to the site and look up Montauk, you probably get probably three videos, two or three videos, anyways. And anyways, briefly, what happened was I went to Mount Shasta. I did a meditation there. I went to the bookstore there in the little town of Mount Shasta. I all of a sudden books jumped off the shelf at me. I know it sounds crazy, but there was a person that witnessed the first one anyways. And I started reading about it, and probably the rest of my life, at least for the next 15 years after that incident, I just dived into it. Okay. I met all kinds of people that were involved with the project, just really some amazing stuff. Okay, I don't know what happened. Maybe I got into a parallel timeline. I'm not really sure. Okay. Anyways, if you're interested in time travel, absolutely have to read the Montauk Project and the series of books that other people have written around that. Okay, there's probably 7 or 8 books that are related, and these people seem to know each other. And yeah, I got to know some of those people. Pretty cool stuff. Interviewed Al Bulick, and had a email relationship after my interview with him for about 4 hours. Pretty amazing stuff, honestly. I'm not pulling your chain on it. It was amazing. Anyways, if you have any interest, Montauk, I think it's called Montauk. The first book is Montauk Experiment in Time, I believe, something like that. But you'll be able to find it pretty easy. Anyways, that's it. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.